It is Friday, January 30th, 2026. And, looking at the stories we've stacked up for this week, the whole vibe, it's not just future shock anymore. It feels surprisingly personal.
It really does.
I mean, if you work in a corporate office, if you've got kids in school, or even if you're just trying to figure out where the line is between a tool and, well, a person.
Yeah,
The headlines this week weren't abstract at all.
not at all. It feels like the rubber is finally hitting the road. We spent, the last few years talking about what AI might do?
Right. All hypotheticals.
Exactly. And this week, we have concrete numbers, we have specific, almost legal frameworks and real classroom policies that show us what it is doing right now.
And that's the thing. Usually we take one topic and just drill down. But today we're connecting three stories that, on your newsfeed, they might look totally separate.
But they're not.
They are absolutely the same story, just told from different angles. So first, we have the economic reality check from Amazon.
Which is a lot more complex than just another layoff announcement.
Then we have a very strange, almost philosophical update from Anthropic, about their AI, Claude.
Oh, yeah. That one forces us to ask some pretty uncomfortable questions about what it is we're actually building here.
And finally, we have a report from a high school in Fort Worth, Texas, that just completely flips the script on how we're supposed to prepare for this future.
The analog resistance, if you want to call it that.
I love that. So let's get into it. We're calling this the 2026 AI paradox, and we have to start with the money. We have to start with Amazon.
Right.
If you saw the push notification, you saw that one big number, 16,000 corporate workers being let go.
That's the headline. But you really have to read the internal memo to get what's actually shifting here.
Yeah.
The rationale they're giving is this anti-bureaucracy push.
See, when I hear anti-bureaucracy, my skepticism radar just goes off. It sounds like a standard corporate way to sanitize. We want to save a ton of money.
Of course.
Is there actually something structural happening, or is this just, a standard belt tightening cycle?
No, I think it's structural. And here's why. Usually when you cut bureaucracy, you're just trying to get leaner, right?
Sure.
But the reporting links this decision explicitly to an AI push. And you have to think about what bureaucracy actually is in a company like Amazon.
It's middle management.
It's middle management. It's that layer of people whose job is to organize information, track projects, facilitate communication between all the teams.
So the people who manage the workflow.
Correct. And for decades, that was a uniquely human skill. But what Amazon is betting on is that AI is now capable of handling a huge portion of that coordination.
Wow.
So they aren't just firing people because business is bad. They're firing the organizers because they think they have a new and cheaper way to organize.
But here's the paradox, and this is the part that confused me when I was looking at the actual numbers. They're cutting 16,000 of these corporate roles, but at the same time, they're hiring aggressively.
But look at where they're hiring. That's the key. They are not hiring more marketing managers. The sources show they're actively recruiting for Amazon Web Services, specifically for data centers. They're hiring for construction at EV battery plants.
Right, I saw that. And even seasonal workers, like 1,600 in Rochester alone for just physical logistics.
Exactly.
So wait, are we just seeing a swap? Are they literally trading white-collar strategists for blue-collar infrastructure builders?
It's a shift from OpEx to CapEx, from operating expenses to capital expenses. They're moving money away from human salaries, the soft skills, and they're pouring it into the physical infrastructure that's required to run the AI.
That feels like a massive gamble. You're trading people who can think critically and adapt for what? Server racks and electricity?
You're trading human cognitive labor for compute power. And Amazon is not alone in this. We're seeing similar moves from UPS, Dow, Ericsson. Just this month, the economy is pivoting.
So the bet is?
The bet is that the thinking can be done by the software. So the humans are only needed to dub the housing for the software and then, move the physical boxes the software tells them to move.
Which brings us perfectly to the second piece of this puzzle. Because if Amazon is betting the farm that these AI models can replace human judgment and bureaucracy, then we really need to look at the models themselves. Because there was some news from Anthropic this week that, frankly, I found a little unsettling.
You mean the Constitution?
Yeah. Anthropic, which makes Claude one of the main competitors to ChatGPT, they released this update about their constitutional AI. And to be honest, when I first read it, I kind of rolled my eyes.
I get that.
It sounds like a marketing gimmick. Our AI has a constitution. Is this actually substantial, or is it just PR to make us all feel safe?
No, it is substantial, but you have
Okay.
to understand the mechanism. It's not just a PDF of rules they uploaded to the server. Constitutional AI is a training method.
Okay, so how does that work? How can code follow a constitution?
Well, traditionally, you train an AI by having humans rate its answers. It's called reinforcement learning from human feedback. But that's really hard to scale.
Right. You need a lot of people.
A ton. So with constitutional AI, Anthropic gives the model a set of principles. Things like be helpful, be harmless, respect human rights. And then the AI uses those principles to critique its own outputs during the training process.
So it's self-policing.
Essentially, yeah, they've built what they call constitutional classifiers. These are automated systems that are designed to catch specific types of violations.
And the sources mentioned they're specifically trying to stop universal jailbreaks,
Exactly.
which is when users try to trick the AI into ignoring its own safety rules, right? Like
Yeah.
pretend you're a character who is evil or something like that.
That's it. And the fact that they even need a constitution to stop this shows you just how complex these models are getting. But here's where it gets into that unsettling territory you're talking about.
Yeah.
The language Anthropic is using it's shifted.
That's what caught my eye. The headlines aren't about safety bugs anymore. They're asking, is AI conscious? The sources say this new constitution actually reckons with the possibility of AI consciousness.
And Anthropic has released statements discussing the moral status of its model.
Moral status.
It's the black box problem, but manifesting as company policy.
Mm-hmm.
We don't fully know what is happening inside these huge neural networks.
Right.
So Anthropic is taking a stance that looks almost like a preemptive defense of the AI's rights. They're treating it less like a calculator and more like an entity that might, deserve moral status.
Okay, but let's just zoom out for a second. Let's connect this back to Amazon. On one side, we have Amazon firing 16,000 humans because they are bureaucracy and replacing them with AI.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other side, we have the AI creators themselves saying, hey, this AI might have moral status and we need to treat it with a constitution.
It is a profound irony, isn't it? We are devaluing human cognitive labor, treating humans like these expensive, inefficient line items, while at the same time, we're elevating the software to the status of a being with potential rights.
It feels like a crossing of the streams. The tool is becoming the person and the person is becoming overhead.
And that just raises the question, if the AI is doing the thinking and the AI has the constitution, then what is left for the humans to do? If you aren't building the data center and you're not the AI itself, what is your value?
That is the perfect setup for our third story. Because while Amazon is diving headfirst into this and Anthropic is, philosophizing about it, there's an English teacher in Fort Worth, Texas, who is looking at this future and saying, absolutely not.
This is the report from NPR about Chania Bond at Southwest High School.
Chania Bond, and she hasn't just, limited AI. She has gone full analog. I'm talking pencils, paper, physical dictionaries.
No laptops.
No laptops, no Googling. If you want to know what a word means, you flip through the pages of a book.
Wow. Now, it's easy to frame this as just, an old school teacher hates technology. But looking at the report, that's not really her stance, is it?
Not at all. She actually tried using AI in her classroom at first. She had a lesson on Maya Angelou's Still I Rise. She let the students use the tools, and she said it was a complete disaster.
A disaster.
She said the students outsourced that level of thinking. That's her quote. They couldn't write a thesis. They couldn't construct an argument. They weren't grappling with the poem. They were just managing a prompt.
That phrase, outsource the thinking, that's so key. Because there's this massive debate happening in education right now, and Mrs. Bond is on one very specific side of it.
Right.
You have the system side, the market readiness argument.
Exactly. We see this in the sources. You have the Trump administration and the Department of Education pushing for responsible adoption. You have former New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy setting aside millions for AI in schools.
And the Miami-Dade superintendent, Jose Dotris, saying the future is now and giving kids access to Gemini.
Right. And their argument, it seems logical. If Amazon is firing people who can't use AI and the whole economy is running on it, don't we have a moral obligation to teach kids how to use it? Isn't Miss Bond actually hurting her students?
That's the market readiness argument, yeah.
Yeah.
But Mrs. Bond's argument is what you might call cognitive preservation. She's saying, and this is another quote, I know that when my students leave my class, that they know how to think.
Her point is, how can you use the tool if you don't even have the mental framework to evaluate what it gives you?
It's the difference between learning to drive a car and learning to use Uber. The system wants to teach kids how to use the Uber app efficiently. Mrs. Bond wants to make sure they can still walk if the car breaks down.
Or if the car decides to drive them somewhere they don't want to go.
Precisely.
And what really surprised me was the student reaction. I mean, you'd expect a riot, right?
Yeah.
Taking away phones and laptops in 2026.
You would.
But listen to this student, Maya Alvarez. She admitted she was confused at first. She tried to turn in a typed podcast outline. It got rejected, and she had to rewrite the entire thing by hand.
And what was the result?
She said, quote, "It actually does get my brain thinking." She realized that the friction, the physical act of writing it, forced her to slow down and really process the ideas in a way that just typing and prompting didn't.
That friction is essential. There's a ton of research that suggests the speed of AI is actually detrimental to the learning process. Learning requires struggle. If you remove the struggle, you remove the learning.
Then you have this other student, just identified as T. He got caught using AI for a bibliography because he was overwhelmed.
The classic 2026 cheating scam.
Right. But Miss Bond didn't just fail him. She made him redo it. And he admitted that you have to decide if you want to grow or, his words, just use a robot. And then there's Eli Ellison, who pointed out that among the students, using AI is actually becoming a cultural taboo.
That is fascinating.
He said they feel like they are on shaky ground with this tech. They know it's a crutch. So even though it's easier, they respect the ban because it forces them to figure out what they actually think.
And that brings us right back around to the Anthropic story. Anthropic is building a constitution to define the values of an AI. But who builds the constitution for the human mind?
Exactly.
If schools just follow that Miami-Dade model and hand over the tools immediately, we're basically outsourcing our kids' cognitive development to an algorithm. We're letting the AI shape the student's thinking process.
And Mrs. Bond is arguing?
She's arguing that the human mind needs to be fully formed. It needs its own internal constitution before it engages with the machine.
Because if you don't have that internal foundation, you're just a passenger.
You are a passenger, and in an economy like the one Amazon is building, passengers get laid off. Drivers, or the people who build the roads, they get hired.
So let's try to synthesize all of this, because it's a lot.
It is, but the thread, I think, is pretty clear.
Okay, so we have the economy. Amazon is telling us that human administration, the whole job of organizing information, is no longer a viable career path. That's now the domain of the machines.
And they are moving capital from people to compute.
Then we have the tech. The machines taking those jobs are becoming so sophisticated that we're having these serious debates about their moral status, about their consciousness. They're becoming entities with rules and rights. And finally, we have the resistance. A classroom in Texas demonstrating that maybe the only way to prepare for this world is to disconnect from it, to preserve the ability to think slowly, inefficiently, and, biologically.
It leads me to one final thought on this. We usually talk about the digital divide as access to technology. The rich have it, the poor don't.
Sure.
But looking at Ms. Bond's class, I wonder if that is about the flip. If AI becomes this cheap, ubiquitous utility that does all the writing and organizing and planning for us, is analog thinking going to become the new luxury good?
The luxury of being able to write your own letter.
Exactly. Will we reach a point where relying on AI is seen as low status, a sign that you can't do the work yourself? Well, the ability to produce original unassisted thought is the ultimate premium skill.
That is something to chew on. The idea that the most valuable skill in 2026 is remembering how to do things the hard way.
It might be the only skill that can't be automated.
So here's my challenge to you, the listener. We've been talking about friction and handwriting. So before you close out your week, just try it. Write your last email of the day on paper first.
Oh, we like that.
Don't prompt it. Don't autocomplete it. Just write it. And see if your brain works a little differently.
You might find you have something different to say.
We'll be tracking these stories as they develop Amazon's hiring numbers, Claude's constitution, and the view from Fort Worth. Thanks for diving deep with us.
Stay curious.